Hello and welcome to The Hop, a podcast designed to help business owners and marketers to stay relevant in the ever-changing landscape of marketing. I'm your host, Matt, and the owner of Purple Bunny Marketing, and today I'm joined by Sam from Purple Bunny Marketing. And Sam's role in our business is our ad specialist. He does a lot of work with Facebook advertising, which is the topic we're going to cover off today.
Yeah, it is, yep.
Perfect. All right, so thanks for coming in, Sam. Appreciate it.
Problem.
All right, well, let's hop to it. So I guess the first question that we should answer, this is our first podcast about social media advertising, would be, why should small business actually be using social media advertising? What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, like anyone using advertising, the reason to use advertising is that if you don't, no one's going to know who you are or what you're selling.
Yes. So
if you're a small business and you're not promoting yourself in some manner, whether that's print or digital, frankly, no one knows who you are.
Yep. And why do you think then, I guess to elaborate on that, why do you think social media advertising is important, or why can it be effective for small business?
Social media advertising, especially on the organic side, can be very low cost for small businesses, which is a very important factor for them.
Yes.
And it's a very popular platform that people scroll on at night or, in the morning or at work. So you're always going to be reaching an audience there who may not have been aware of your presence before, or even if you're promoting new products and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, agreed. I think social media advertising has made it easier for business owners these days to get a message out there or promote a sale. And it's quite cost effective, compared to some other platforms out there. And I know, we've talked about radio and we've talked about TV and different platforms. Whilst, yes, they are on a grand scale more, more expensive in that regard, they are effective in what they deliver. But for social media's perspective, we're talking about budgets of $200 and $300 that can be very effective and generate sales for a business, I guess. So, all right. So I guess something that we do need to touch on is what's the difference between me just boosting a post on my page, which does go into Ads Manager, which I can understand why some people get confused, and actually running an ad. So what's the difference between?
This is a question I get asked a lot, to be honest, and a lot of clients really, understandably, as you mentioned, get confused about the difference. Now, one of the drawbacks to boosting is you can only use one aspect ratio on the post, whereas if you were to use a traditional ad, whether it's a static or a video, you can have your 1:1, which is a square, your story format, which is a portrait style, or you can have the 16:9, which is more of a movie, widescreen
landscape version type thing.
That's one of the limitations of boosting.
Yes.
But the thing that you can get from boosting is that you've got a post directly on your page there. People are going to see that immediately. It's going to get started. It's going to start being promoted immediately, whereas an ad tends to go through a much longer learning phase.
Yes.
And for anyone who doesn't know what the learning phase is, it's a period where Facebook is testing the waters with your audience to make sure that they're targeting the right people to get a good result.
Yes.
Can take up to 14 days. So if you're trying to do a 1 week only offer, boosting posts the way to go.
Yes, agreed. And I guess I get that question a lot asked upon me about what's more effective. And I guess it does come down to having a conversation and understanding what you're trying to achieve. That's the biggest thing. Something that we always talk about, direction is more important than speed sometimes. Understanding what you're trying to target, understanding, how long your campaign's going to run for, and what you're trying to achieve as an outcome, obviously. I guess the other thing that people get confused about, or, people who are new to the platforms and don't necessarily understand the advertising side like we do, is they can't see their ad on their page, and they sometimes get confused about it. But basically the way the ads works in the background is it runs the ad. It's not actually sitting on your page. It gets delivered to people's feeds using your brand, so it does attach to your page in a sense, and there is ways that you can see those ads through different tools that Facebook provides in the background. But I guess that's another thing I get asked a lot, especially amongst the small business community who don't necessarily understand the platforms 100%. And let's be real, it can be confusing even for us. Sometimes things get changed or moved, and we go, wait, that used to be there and now it's somewhere else. So I think that plays a part as well in understanding the difference there.
That's exactly why we send the preview links to clients. It shows you all the placements.
Yes.
So helps people understand.
Yeah, and I think that's important as well as an agency, that we help educate people about how to use that platform and what it does.
Agreed.
So, all right. So another one. And, you know, we've got a lot of clients that we work with in different spheres, and some work, some use them, some don't, some hate them, some love them, some it's a hard one. But Facebook lead forms.
Yeah.
What's your take on them? Do they actually work? Because that is a question I get asked a lot.
So like anything with marketing, it just depends what your goal is and what industry you're in. So if you were a gym, for example,
yes,
lead forms are a great thing to have running constantly in the background, and also for offers.
Yes.
But if you're a smaller gym who can't exactly afford the budget to do that all the time, I would save the lead form for offers and then use a click campaign to direct people to a site.
Yeah. I agree. I think lead forms are great, but if you don't have an actual strategy or process in place to handle that lead when it comes through, then you take 2 to 3 days to respond to it, that person has potentially moved on to another business that responds fast, or another business that may not be running a lead form but has all their answers on their website.
Yeah.
So I think if you are going to run a lead form, having an effective communication plan in place afterwards, whether it's automated email responses, text messages, you know, for example, something we run for our business, and we've fully automated that process, is we do run Facebook ads, and we run lead forms. And as part of those lead forms, when someone submits, they're greeted with an automated email that basically says, you know, let's hop to it, book in now, book a time to have a discussion about what you're requiring and how we can help. And I guess that's an effective use of lead forms.
It is.
Versus just filling in a form, waiting for it to land in someone's inbox, and then taking 3 days to try and contact that person. You know?
Yeah, as you mentioned, you know, it's really important to try to get to people who fill out lead forms as soon as possible, because anyone filling out a lead form is very high intent. So they want whatever you're selling now.
Yes.
So it's quite likely they're filling out other forms too.
Correct.
So you want to be the first one to get in contact with them.
100%.
Otherwise they're gone.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to be mindful about it is in every industry has different KPIs when it comes to internet lead forms. Just because someone submits a lead form, not every single one of them is going to convert.
Sure.
You know, it's the same with anything, you know, when it's leads based, is that there is a certain ratio of people. And I guess the general rule of thumb that we work to is generally about a 1 in 4 to 1 in 5 ratio of leads that you generate, you'll potentially convert.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a numbers game like anything we do in marketing. It's about creating awareness and pushing people through that funnel and that process to the point that they submit, and getting those numbers so that you can convert and achieve your targets, I guess, is what you're doing there. So to summarize, because we kind of chatted a little bit there about it, but to summarize, they do work, but you need to have a strategy in place and they need to be used for something relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Last question, then you're out of the hot seat. So what are your quick tips? Say I'm a small business owner.
Yep.
What would be your quick tips for a small business owner to get in there and run a successful ad campaign for the first time?
Well, the first thing I do is probably read my blog post on the site that I wrote a while ago, detailing difference between certain campaign strategies.
Yes, good plug.
I mean, it really comes down to the research, right? So, you know, if you're not quite ready to consult a marketing agency like us or someone else, for example, there's tons of resources online that you can look at to help educate yourself better on Facebook. And once you've, you know, read about all that, you can hopefully come to a better decision about what type of campaign you think would work best for you, whether that's awareness, which is something that I think a lot of people overlook because it doesn't have an immediate conversion or outcome, or it's click or leads. You know, it really depends on the industry. And that's something that, you know, whether you're a small business or not, it's something you're going to have to research if you're not willing to approach an agency to help you out.
Yes. Agreed. I guess from my perspective, the things that I would say is, one, always test. run something and test it for a couple of days. Obviously, we understand learning phases now are growing. Sometimes it can be up to 14 days. Sometimes it can be 7 days. It just depends on what you've set, I guess, as your targeting and how quickly the AI can get to that position to understand it. So my biggest thing would be test. Start small. Use a small budget to kind of test the waters and see what works. And don't be scared to get in there and change things and test things. Just remember, though, that the more you change, the more a campaign pushes back into learning. So you want to try and keep your changes minimal and let your campaign at least get out of that learning phase before you try and run those sorts of things. I think that's another thing that we see quite commonly that owners run when they run their own, is that they keep changing it because they don't feel it's working. The problem is it hasn't had enough time to get out of its learning phase.
That's right.
Which resets it.
It does. And another thing people really get caught up on is the audience targeting as well.
Yes.
Facebook's Advantage Plus AI, Advantage Plus audience targeting, is very robust these days.
Yes.
So you don't quite have to get super granular with the targeting as you used to have to do, and as a lot of people still try to do. You still want to think about your demographics and your locations, but beyond that,
Facebook knows our people better than we do.
It knows our people. It's got all the data. We don't have the data. Facebook's got the data. We just tell it what to look for,
Yes.
So that's the important thing, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Trust the tools.
Yes. And there's plenty of them in the platform, 100%. So, all right. Well, thank you for jumping on today to have a chat. I do appreciate you taking time out of the office to have this chat with me. So thanks for tuning in to hear and see more of The Hop, and to keep up to date with all the latest marketing trends, make sure you subscribe below. Special thanks to Sam for coming in and having a chat about social media ads. Obviously, it's the first time we've talked about ads, and this is something we plan to do more regularly. We'll have more conversations around advertising and how you can get the best from running, whether it's social media ads, or whether it's potentially things like pay-per-click advertising like Google search and stuff like that. So if you have an opinion about what we've talked about today, feel free to share your thoughts below, or maybe you've got a question that you'd like us to answer the next time that we're on, so share it below, and stay tuned for more from The Hop, helping you to get your marketing hopping.